Hi there, welcome back to Watch by Ashley. Today we're going to be jumping into Final Destination Bloodlines, the latest installment in the franchise after a 14-year hiatus. 14 years, that's a perfect opportunity for a new generation to experience communal trauma. If you're like me and you've seen some of these films, there are things that you will just not do. If you've never been exposed to Final Destination, don't worry, you can actually start with this film because it's kind of like a soft reboot sequel, so the previous films don't weigh too much on it, and it does follow the same formula. So with these films, typically we have a main character, they have a premonition of their death, and they warn the people around them. And as a result, we end up with a handful of survivors. But of course, death does not like to be cheated, and so one by one, we get to witness death enacting its own form of revenge with these gruesome, over-the-top killings of our survivors. And Bloodlines is no different. The only thing that is kind of new for this movie is that we're focusing on a family. So essentially there was a grandmother who cheated death in the late 1960s, and as a result her whole family shouldn't exist. So she's been fighting death off for decades, prolonging the life of her family, and we get to see how they deal with the news, and especially with the modern audience, it's kind of upgraded for modern storytelling because younger generations aren't as superstitious. They don't believe in an entity like death hunting you down until it's actually happening to them. So I really did like that kind of upgrade for the story here. I'm always very skeptical about older IPs transitioning to a modern audience if they can actually pull it off, and I would say Final Destination did in this case. I mean, really and truly, these movies aren't very complex. And in all honesty, you don't really get attached to the actors. They're pretty much cannon fodder, and you're really watching it for the death scenes because they are over the top. There are times when I was watching this movie and it just felt like the writers let their intrusive thoughts win and we got to see on screen, because some of it I was like, wow, that's pretty unrealistic, but it was entertaining. So, I mean, you got to give to get, right? Again, these films don't take themselves seriously, but that's what is, I think, one of the benefits of them. I really found it refreshing that it didn't have any social commentary or political motivations here. It was just 90 minutes of gore and fun. And I think when you're having like a stressful week and you just want to relax, like that's sometimes just what you want to have just to unplug, right? So overall, I would say the movie does keep in essence the spirit of Final Destination. It's campy, it's gory, it's over the top, but it is a lot of fun. Another aspect I want to highlight about the film is the fact that this is the final performance for Tony Todd. You know, he played Bloodworth, the coroner that kind of connected all the films together. It's very interesting here because Tony Todd did pass away last year, so he got to end the character on his own terms, and I thought that was a nice touch.
Life is precious. Enjoy every single second. You never know when.
Especially since this is probably a turning point for the franchise. The film did perform pretty well at the box office with a budget of $50 million. They brought in $250 million, which probably means that Warner Brothers will explore having more movies in the franchise. Love it or hate it, there you go. I do find Final Destination is kind of a cultural movement sometimes, depending on the scenes. I think for a lot of millennials, you'll remember in the second film, the scene with the logs on the truck. I personally am still traumatized. I will not drive behind a log truck. If I see one, I will shift lanes as fast as I can. If you know, you know. So for me personally, I would rate this film 7 logs out of 10 on a truck. It definitely does bring up a lot of the old tropes. It's very nostalgic, it's fun, but again, not perfect because the plot does have some holes and leave a little bit to be desired. I would love to hear in the comments below what your favorite Final Destination kill is, and if you think that they should continue making these films. Very interested to hear from you. But as always, thank you so much for your time. If you enjoyed the content here, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Take care.